What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers.
Hello and welcome to the Bold and Unafraid podcast. I am Anastasia Halcomb, your host, and today we are talking about a topic that is so dear to my heart and that I'm so excited to talk about because I feel like nobody's really talking about this topic, and we need to, because there's so many of us walking around on this planet with this gift / superpower. So we're talking about being a feeler. And maybe you've wondered before if you were a feeler, or maybe you stumbled upon this podcast today and you have no idea what a feeler even is, or if that's even a real thing. Don't worry, we're going to go over all of that. What I wanted to talk about in today's podcast is I wanted us to talk about all the things related to being a feeler. So whether it's a gift or a curse or even a thing, the top 7 characteristics of a feeler. And of course, this is going to be from my own personal experience. I'm not a doctor or medical professional, any of those things. So this is my own experience and journey. And why we need more feelers in the world today and in this generation, because I think it's super important. And I'm going to tell you why, as well as how to be a healthy feeler and my own personal story of self-discovery, of realizing that I am a feeler, getting healing in my gifting and using how to steward it, learning how to steward it well as raising feelers of my own. I've got a bunch of amazing feelers in my family, in my household, and it's such a gift. And then the biggest question I think of all, and the most controversial question might just be, is everyone a feeler? And right now you're probably going, hold on a second, Anastasia. I just found out that this was like a thing and that it's called that. And yes, it is called that. It's called being a feeler. Not very original, but maybe you're just kind of like getting a little like, whoa, what is going on? That's okay. I'm going to slow it down a little bit and break it down for you. But I also want to give you practical tools and an exercise that I use that really has helped me in learning how to steward my feeler gift and to use it for good rather than for evil. That's the choice that we all have every day, right? Is, am I going to use my talents and giftings for good, or am I going to use them for evil? And the beauty of this world is that you have freedom to choose that. You get to be the hero or the villain. You get to do it for good or for evil. And so I really wanted to talk to you today about stewarding this gift and learning more about it. And also broaching that question of, is everyone a feeler? So let's get into that. And also, I hope you all had an amazing Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving ended, I got super sick with the C word. And then like so many of our kids did too. It must be a new strain going around. But so I apologize ahead of time for my voice. It's a little bit scratchy. But as you can see, if you're watching this on the YouTube, on my live YouTube podcast, you can see that my office is all set up and I'm so excited. So welcome to the space, and I'm so glad we were able to get it set up and up-leveled, and thanks to my amazing assistant and my amazing husband. And we have this giant light in this little tiny studio, but wow, what a difference it makes, right? Okay, so let's talk about being a feeler. And before I even get into that, how I came up with this topic was I was talking to one of my best friends of over a decade. And she is someone we met on this epic journey when Erin was in the military and her husband was in the military, and we were moving to Alaska, the final frontier, with we each had 2 children respectively, and we just hit it off right away. We became like best of friends, and we also happened to be neighbors that shared the same, like, what are those called? Like townhomes, but where they're attached, or duplexes. So we had one of those in Fairbanks, Alaska. And so I was talking to her literally last night, and I was like, I feel like I have so many things that I want to talk about and that I feel like we need to talk about, and so many areas, but then I get to this place where my head starts swirling and I can't pick it, or I don't know the right thing, and then I start over analyzing it. Are you like that? Do you like over analyze every single thing and every decision? Only the big ones, I think, are the ones that I like really get caught up on. But then sometimes picking out nail polish, if you're a girl, holler at me because you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. Maybe you walk in there and you just know exactly what color you're going to get. But for me, it's like stress decision. And because usually I like a lot of different ones. And I'm like, I could go with this look, more neutral, more colorful, more neon, whatever. Anyways, I don't know how I digressed to that, guys. I'm so sorry. But maybe you understand that. Oh, because I was talking about topics for podcasts. So I was talking to my friend, and she was like, can you talk about being a feeler? Like, and all the things around that, because nobody talks about that. And she's like, it would help me. And I was like, oh, yes, I could do that. I could talk about this topic because I am one. I have a lifetime of experience with it, but also because it's going to help someone. And that is what I want to stay true to. And that's what I want to encourage you to stay true to in whatever it is that you're doing, whatever business, or if you're a stay-at-home parent, or if right now the season that you're in is you're like in school and just doing the thing. But just try to each day help one person. And that ripple effect will be astronomical, will be greater than anything you could imagine. So I was like, yes, I can help one person and hopefully more. But with this podcast topic of being a feeler. All right. So hopefully this is going to help you and speak to you. And also, maybe you're like, I'm not a feeler. I know I'm not a feeler. Why would I even listen to this podcast? Well, I would like to propose to you that maybe you would listen to this podcast to learn about being a feeler, because most likely, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in a direct relationship with someone who is a feeler, because there's a lot of us walking around on the earth. So whether it's in your family, if it's a coworker, if it's someone you're in an intimate relationship with, most likely they're a feeler. And so this will help you in your relationship and communication with them, but also in understanding them a little bit more. And maybe you could even point them to this podcast and be like, oh, would be a great resource for you. So there's my little pitch on why I think, even if you're not a feeler, that you should listen to this podcast. Okay. All right. So here are some common thoughts that you might have thought at some point in your life if you're a feeler. You might have thought, why do I feel this way? I wish I could be normal, like in quotation marks, normal. I wish I didn't feel this way. Is this even a gift, or is it actually a curse? And a lot of people feel, when they have this gift, that they feel too much, and they feel that it is a curse. They feel like, this is such a burden. This is so overwhelming. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you have been walking around for 20 years or 18 years or 50 years, and you've been going, I just feel so much constantly. Well, then this is going to help you. All right, so let's get into it. This topic of being a feeler is going to help you see yourself and the world in a whole new way and hopefully give you some insight into your own journey and giftings, as well as give you some practical tools that you can use to steward the gift well. So why is this gift needed today and in our generation? Oh, that is such a good question because it so is needed. This was something that I spent a lot of time thinking about and writing down and talking with my assistant Faith about because I feel like I really want to drive this point home, and I really want to put the importance on why we need feelers in this generation and in this day and age. So these are the top ones. There's so many more. Like I could go on and on, but these are the top ones. Okay. So because we need more compassion in our world, and feelers are compassionate by nature. Did you know that? Did you know that if you are a feeler, you are compassionate by nature? You are extremely compassionate. You can feel what other people are going through. Like, that is a superpower. So we need that today. We need people that can actually have compassion for their fellow man, can have compassion for the stranger on the street, can have compassion for their mother-in-law, can have compassion for their enemy. We need people like that, can have compassion. I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, for the opposite political party that you affiliate with. Whew, that's a big one today in 2022. Now more than ever, in our super out of touch world where anyone can fake anything via the internet and apps and social media, it is very helpful and a useful gift that, if used correctly, will make the world of difference, being a feeler. In a curated world, you can get into a lot of trouble without feeling or sensing beyond what is being shown to you or said to you, i.e. television, the internet, the media. So to be able to decipher truth from lie when all you have to go on is that gut feeling, it can be a protection and even a life or death situation that you could help or avoid or help someone else in. So explore that with me just for a brief moment. But we have avatars for everything nowadays. We all know you can be a 48-year-old pervert on the internet and say that you're a 15-year-old girl and schedule a meetup, right? Like, that's why this gift is really, really helpful, not just for that very specific situation, but in general. Anyone can pretend and can create whatever it is that they want to present as reality, because we live in this very virtual reality situation nowadays. So being able to trust that, and I put it in quotes, but that gut feeling of something's off with the situation, something's off with the person, where you just have that sense, you need to listen to that. And so tuning into that and having the feeler gift nowadays to be able to apply that to these type of situations is really helpful. And honestly, I believe is really crucial. Sometimes people will say, oh, that's using common sense or discernment or intuition. And yes, that can be a combination of those things, but I think at the actual crux of it, it's that you have and possess this feeler's gift. And so you're able to more readily and a little easier press into that or lean into that within different situations. So it's, we've heard in Jiminy Cricket, let your conscience be your guide, right? It's kind of like that, but with feelings, with intuition, with discernment, with wisdom. And that wisdom comes like from within, I believe comes from God, that it's innate within us that we can understand and discern and get that wisdom and gather that. And we can know something about a situation or a person without actually knowing it, without it being shown clearly to us that way. So you can actually develop this gift that you have to a place where you will actually know and trust that the feeling that you are getting is correct and accurate. You can improve upon your accuracy by doing a couple of just really simple exercises that I will teach you at the end of this. Okay. And then the other thing is, the gut feeling, because I don't know, I know there's going to be like people right now that you're listening and you're like, okay, yeah, but I've had a gut feeling, but that was, I was wrong about it or something. Okay. You're going to get things wrong because you're human, but it just because it didn't happen, that thing that you had a gut feeling about, doesn't mean it's not going to happen, and also doesn't mean it wouldn't have happened. Because also you have to put in the God factor. And the God factor would be that God intervened into a situation that maybe potentially could have been really, really, really negative, really bad. Another thing, because I'm just thinking about this just now, but not just that, maybe God like intervened, but maybe that gut feeling that you had about that situation, if you're a feeler, you were actually picking up on what another person was feeling. And I don't want this to get confused with fear, because a lot of times fear can feel, it's definitely feeling, it can feel like something like very real, and it can even move upon our emotions in rational and irrational ways, usually irrational ways. But so it's not that you're worried that something's going to happen. It's more of an inner knowing and an inner sense. And the more that you tune into that and pay attention to that, and then notice the outcomes of what happens after you sense something, you feel something, then you'll start to learn more about your gift. Okay. I don't know if that was actually helpful. Kind of went slightly on a little tangent, but that's okay. You will forgive me. All right, so let's talk about the top 7 characteristics of a feeler. All right, so you're like, all right, Anastasia, I'm with you. Maybe I'm a feeler. Maybe a feeler's a real thing. It is. And you're like, or yeah, I know there's people around me that are feelers. All right, so this is going to help you if you are in a relationship with a feeler, or if you personally are a feeler, okay? So these are the 7 characteristics of a feeler. So this is, according to me, top 7 characteristics. It could be a million other things, but this is what I came up with, because this is what I have found is the most common like across the world. I've lived in many different places all over the world, all over America, and lots of different people, whether male, female, and everything else. Like, it's just, this is what would be the top ones that I have noticed when the person is a feeler. Okay. So the first is, I call it your spidey sense. There's a lot of really corny references in here. So like Disney and Marvel and I'm sure other things. So just bear with me. Okay. So your spidey sense, you can sense something is going to happen before it happens. And then it happens. All right. Raise your hand if that is you, if you have ever experienced that. I think all of us have, honestly. All right. Here's another big one. You get a stomach ache around certain people or large groups of people, kind of like you're in sensory overload. And lots of times you also will have dealt with or deal with stomach problems like IBS or constipation. All right. Now, that needs a little bit more information. Again, not a medical professional. This is just what I have noticed. And this is kind of part of my story. So, and I've also noticed it in some of my kids. A lot of times feelers will have stomach issues. All right. So especially as a child, but then if it's gone into adulthood, it's usually also a really good indication that there needs to be some healing in some areas and some good, healthy boundaries. But the reason that it's connected, I mean, I could talk about all the like different things with between your brain and your heart and your gut and all of that, but I won't. We'll stay on topic. It does apply, but we'll stay on topic. So the reason that that is kind of the short answer to why you would have stomach problems would be your stomach is responsible, your intestines, that whole area is responsible for breaking down the food for the body to utilize. Okay. So if you think of feelings as the food and your gift, the feeler gift, being your ability to break down those feelings, right? Then that kind of makes sense that way. That would be why you're maybe a little stopped up, or you're just having a lot of cramps, or it's explosive. This is really graphic. I'm so sorry. But that is why having stomach problems, a lot of times with feelers, especially in children, are very common because we're not able to break it down and process it because we, first of all, don't even usually realize that we have this ability, this gift, and we don't have anyone telling us, oh, that's not necessarily from the food that you just ate, because sometimes it will be when we're not even eating food, right? But that's actually because it's your first day of school, or it's because you were just in a room full of people and you just absorbed all of this stuff, picked up on all this stuff, absorbed all this stuff, noticed all those dynamics and those feelings, and you don't know how to process it. And then that continues on into adulthood when we're not taught and when there's not healing and helpful tools like that. Like, I am a firm believer in therapy and going to therapy and getting your power back and learning about yourself and why you do things. And it all usually stems from childhood. So it's very helpful that way. But with the stomach problems or stomach issues, or maybe past or present diagnoses within different stomach related things, that can be a pretty good indication that you are a feeler. So just kind of hold that loosely, but that's one of my points. All right. You don't always know what you're feeling or sensing, but you know you're feeling it. So I call this the it factor. And when you're feeling it, so a lot of times my kids, because it's really good to use kids as examples because they don't BS, they just say it as it is. And a lot of times they say it like in a really simple, easy to understand way. And I'm like, that's so well put. Um, so a lot of times my kids will say like, "Oh, mommy, I feel like that again. I feel like it's something, but I don't know what it is." And so that is another indication that you might be a feeler. Um, when that happens, when my kids say I'm feeling that, I like to explore that with them and say, "All right, what are the things you're thinking about? And when did you start feeling this way? And can you remember a time when you felt this same feeling before?" Because when you're a feeler, feelings are really powerful and they will hold memory within your cells that you'll notice it's a familiar feeling. Like any woman who's given birth will tell you as birth pains start, it's a familiar feeling because she's known it, she's experienced it before, her body's gone through it. So you feel and you know and sense those same feelings. Here's another one. People, if you're a feeler, people will ask you if you are. Now, this depends on what type of person is asking you this and what type of circles that you're hanging out in. But I've gotten this a lot. People are like, "Whoa, are you a psychic? Like, do you know this because you're a psychic?" And I'm like, "No." um, or they'll ask you if you're like, a prophet or really prophetic person. Um, or they'll notice like, "Oh, wow, you're really an introvert. Like, you're very introverted." Usually I don't get to that. Normally people are like, "Oh, you're an extrovert." I'm like, "No, I'm an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert." So I can perform for you and I do enjoy doing that. But where I get my energy and can recharge is when I'm by myself. Um, as we know, that's the difference between an extrovert and introvert. Extroverts are going to get their batteries charged when they're with other people, and introverts will get it when they are alone. So, a lot of times feelers will be introverts. You might be an extroverted introvert, but still you will be an introvert. And that I think is because there's so much that you're like always aware of and um that you're absorbing and stuff. So it can be, especially if you don't know that you have this gift and you haven't trained this gift, then it can be very, very exhausting and overwhelming and actually like make you want to like stay in bed for days. So um, that's another really good characteristic and thing to notice if you are a feeler. All right. This one I'm going to give a little bit. Oh, wait, no. Okay. You can see things from other people's viewpoints or perspectives, including those who are opposite of you or even your enemies. Your enemies. There we go. Well, I don't know why I was saying enemies. Even your enemies. So, like I was saying earlier, um, this ability, this is an ability. This is an amazing ability. This is a reason you should go into politics if you are a feeler, because you can, it's more than just keeping an open mind. You can actually feel and empathize with how the other person is feeling. So, um, this is a beautiful characteristic of a feeler, is that they can actually see it from another person's perspective because they can actually feel what that person is feeling. Okay. Now, I will say that this one takes a little bit more like maturity and a better self-awareness of yourself, because you have to be able to separate between what you're feeling, right? And then what the other person is feeling or the other people are feeling, and then kind of hone in on that. So it's a lot of like self-reflection, introspection, discovery, to be able to and focus, to be able to really go, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling about the situation. I feel good about the situation, personally, me, Anastasia. But as soon as I entered this room, I'm feeling really negative about the situation. So noticing that and noticing what it is. Are you picking up on what other people in the room are feeling? Or are you actually picking up on, and this is a little bit more of the prophetic, but are you picking up on what's actually going to happen within the situation? And you need to maybe stop and pray and bring God into the situation. So that was that's a big one. That's a big one. Okay. This one I'm going to give a caveat to. Not everyone with a feeler superpower will struggle with this, but I have found that the majority of people with this gift have had this as a diagnosis at one point or another in their life. So they've had this as like an actual medical diagnosis. I'm going to turn my microphone a little bit here. So try not to. There we go. Okay. So they've had this as an actual like medical diagnosis. Again, not a doctor, not prescribing anyone with this. But I have noticed that sometimes people, and I would say when your gift is really strong, your feeler gift is really strong, that you might be going through this, or you might have struggled with this and had this in the past. So that's going to be, you might have been diagnosed with depression or an autoimmune disorder of some kind. So again, that is going to be the body not being able to handle or manage the amount of other people's feelings that you are constantly being bombarded with and exposed to and subconsciously absorbing. Okay. So that would be a good example of your gift not being well managed or taught to you, and that produces an unhealthy feeler, okay? Because it's doing your physical body harm because you're not aware of what's going on around you. All right. So, sorry, that was my door opening. All right, so again, that is the top 7 characteristics that I came up with.
What's your story?
It's Anastasia. I just wanted to pop in real fast and let you know that because this ended up being such a big topic, and honestly, as I was starting to talk and get into it, I realized there's so much more to this being a feeler than I had originally realized. So I turned this into a 2-part series. That way you can listen a little easier. So this is going to be part 1, intro, about being a feeler. And this is going to give you just kind of an overview on what it means to be a feeler, what is a feeler. We kind of go over those different things and some of the characteristics for being a feeler. And then tune in to part 2 if you found this helpful or interesting or like, whoa, aha moment, revelation, as you get more invested in it, and you can listen to part 2. So this will be part 1 of being a feeler.
Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me depths of my heart. We're dreaming.